morning, SLCA. I'm Reverend Cynthia James, and I'm on the council here. And Reverend Annette is on the council. So it's Lady Day in the house. And we're going to, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with a little bit of music. And I will explain to you why we chose this song. It's called Check Your Intention. Check your intention. What seeds did you sow? To see your light, nothing is flowing, and you can't sleep at night. Come on and check your intention. What manifestation is birth within. So check your intention. The lover you've chosen, well, they won't seem to let you in. The heart not open, and they won't say where they've been. Check your intention. What seeds did you sow? Your intention. The world of appearance will mirror your mind. There's no one to blame. The truth is not hard to find. Check your intention. What seeds did you sow? Manifestation is birth within. So check your intention. Check your bank account so low. Check your bill so high. Check the world around you. Come on and check. Check the one who shares your bed, and check the ways you hide. Check the world around you. Come on and check your intention. Check your clothes. Good morning. So, I chose that song because our topic today is conquering mental merry-go-rounds. And so, when I'm thinking about this, this song came because I was in a relationship that was interesting. I like shiny objects. And so here I am on a merry-go-round, riding a pretty horse, going nowhere. You know what I'm talking about? And as I'm complaining in my car to God, this voice says, check your intention. I'm like, oh my goodness. My intention was to get validated. My intention was to get loved. My intention was for someone to see me, hear me, and tell me I was good enough. So I was on a wooden horse that had no consciousness about doing any of that because I didn't understand that it was here. And so we want to talk to you today about that. Does anybody in here feel like they're on a merry-go-round? Right? Same old patterns coming over and over again. So when Annette and I were talking about this, we were like, oh, we can relate to this, yes. I'm supposed to take this. I'm not supposed to talk in this anymore. I am so putting this down.
2 mics suits you, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Oops, how did we do that? So we never do it again.
We never did it right. So we want to talk to you about patterns. You know, the brain is wired to look for patterns, right? And that's how we create neural paths, and that's how we keep inviting in interesting situations and people. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about those patterns and how those mental merry-go-rounds rule us until we wake up.
You know, I just said something that was actually inspired. I just said, how did we do that so that we never do it again, right? Did you hear me say that? When we made that noise with the microphones, how did I do that so that I never do that again? And that's a question that we sometimes probably ought to ask ourselves, oh, I don't know, 3 times a day. like when we eat our food, so I mean, because we eat every day, right? Most of us eat every day. Maybe we should ask ourselves, how did I do that so I never do that again? Because for me, the mental merry-go-round, and I've tripped over that all week long. The mental merry-go-round. Also, for me, I sometimes refer to this as the hamster wheel. The hamster wheel of hell. Sometimes, just because that's how it feels. Sometimes, you know, it's showing up over and over again, or it's a pattern of thought over and over again. But here's the thing, I can't stop it until I notice that it's happening in the first place. You know, and sometimes it's a loud, unpleasant noise, or the 2x4 that hits us that we talk about, you know. So gaining that initial awareness is a big part of it. Just noticing where that noticing that there's that problem.
Exactly. And by the way, on all of those patterns, you're the common denominator. I'll just let you breathe that in.
She said it, I didn't say it.
So the thing is that when I looked at those interesting relationships, I said, oh, come in. Oh, I'll be the doormat. Oh, I'll make all the dinners. I'll do everything you need. I'll be a chameleon. Right? You smoke, I'll smoke. You drink, I'll drink. You like that, I'll like that. And then I'm in a state of pissosity when it's not working. That's a real word.
It's certainly a real feeling.
Yes. So if you're the common denominator, then it's you know, a merry-go-round is a bunch of wooden things that are painted to look pretty with noise, but you keep going in the same circle looking at the same things.
Trying to grab that gold ring.
Yes, hello. And you know, for kids, that's great. But when you grow up, it gets boring and tiresome. And how many of you are tired of telling the same story? And I'd like you to know that your family and friends are tired too.
But interestingly enough, they have their own stories.
Exactly. of which you're tired.
Which we have to listen to.
Exactly.
Or do we?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I loved the song "Change" was part of the mix today. There is a divine plan, whether we know it or not, and not just because I'm married to the music director. So, change, because it's going to happen one way or the other. Either you're changing out the same story for a different version of the same story, or you're changing out the story for a new and upgraded 2.0 version of the story, or, in some way, shape, or form, shifting the story altogether so that it becomes a whole new book, that kind of thing. Right. And this ripples outside of your family and outside of your personal experience into the greater community, because it's easy for us. In fact, many times we are looking at the world out there and it's showing us stuff that's going on in here. And we hear that over and over again every Sunday. In some way, shape, or form, we're hearing that. But sometimes it really behooves us to really just stop for a moment, and instead of hearing that over and over again, stop and think about, what does it really mean? What does that really mean? The crazy out there is a version of the crazy in here. And a lot of that has to do with our perception, and my perception of the thing out there, and my relationship with it, which ties back into that relationship with me in here. And how am I dealing with myself when I show up that way that I hate out there? That way that I hate out there. And one of the things that really came up for me as I was thinking about and planning for this Sunday was just how easy it is for me to choose hating the problem over loving the solution. Think about that for a second. How many of us would rather hate the problem than love the solution? Because what we've got to do is we've got to actually love the solution more than we hate the problem.
It's really interesting because yesterday we had our final class for the Technologies of Consciousness class that I was teaching. Part was online, and then we had the final day here yesterday. And we were talking about this very thing. And this is what I want. The technologies are prayer, meditation, and visioning. And the spiritual practice is essential for shift. Because the thing is, you are changing whether you want to or not. The thing is, you get to be awake or asleep while it's happening. And so we were talking in the class about, the challenges with staying awake and choosing to do things differently and doing the spiritual practice and then taking action. If you want your life to change, you have to act. And that's the hard part, because I love what you just said. The part of the solution is, what are you doing to make the shift? What steps are you taking to take it to the next level?
Mm-hmm. For me, I have found that if I'm not practicing mindfulness, and now here's the fun difference, really practicing it, not just thinking about mindfulness, there's a difference, there's a big difference. Sometimes that's a painful difference. And the noise happens, or the 2x4 comes to remind me that, I've just been thinking about mindfulness, not practicing mindfulness. But if I'm practicing mindfulness in the present moment, and in this present moment, and in this present moment, if I'm practicing it, what happens is that opens a doorway within me for spirit to actually come through and support me, guide me, give me guidance, protect me, alert me, give me words, or tell me when to shut up. Just saying. It creates an environment conducive for divine presence. But if I'm not alert and aware and mindful in the present moment, then my thoughts are making so much noise that I can't hear divinity when it's there, trying to get my attention, you know?
Well, and I just want you to know, your prayers are being answered. You might not like the answer. So, oftentimes when I'm teaching classes, I'll say to someone, what was your prayer? Oh, I was praying for shift. I was praying for clarity. And I want to tell you this story. I'm still connected, but we were actively in a prayer group for like 25 years, 7 women. We prayed together. We met once a month. We nurtured each other. We supported each other. And we, through marriages and divorces and cancer and all kinds of different stuff, right? And we stood together. And one of our, the women met her soulmate, the man of her dreams. It was like Spirit dropped this person down, and it was her person, right? And she had a daughter, and he was helping her raise her daughter, and he was charismatic and good looking, and we all thought, this is just really great. This is kind of what people are wanting to manifest when they pray, right? And so one day she's at work and she's sick, and her daughter is like, I think 15. And she comes home early because she's sick to find her husband in bed with her daughter about to create intimacy. She freaks out. He jumps up, the daughter's scared. There's this whole thing going on. And so she comes to the circle, and she said, I am so mad. She said, I'm mad at the situation. She said, but I'm mad at me that I didn't see this. And I'm mad because, she said, when in doing all of the, going back and doing research about his history, this had happened before, because pedophiles look for women who have young children who are going to grow into the space, right? So we're all mad at him, and we're all, trying to be in the upper level, but we're not. And this was the thing. This is why I wanted to tell you this. She said, I was praying for clarity. I was praying for clarity, and now I have to deal with the answer to the prayer, and I have to decide, how am I going to respond? Am I going to respond in a way that's just spewing more anger, or am I going to take the steps to take care of my daughter, to take care of me, to make sure that he doesn't get to do this again in a mindful way? But then I need to ask, what was it that was in denial and would not look at what was happening? Because the signs were there, and I just closed my eyes.
I love God. So I had no idea you were going to talk about that, of course. And, but some little part of me I have a little line off on my notes off to the side. 1 in 5, 1 in 5. So I'm going to go there. 1 in 5 people experiences some form of, experiences some form of mental health challenge. That's the way I like to phrase that, mental health challenge. So I'm going to be real with you guys, because in this moment right now I am shaking inside, shaking. Because one of the things I deal with is post-traumatic stress syndrome. Yeah, PTSD. For multiple reasons, some of which were sexual abuse when I was a child,
Me
physical
too.
abuse from from growing up from my mother, and emotional abuse as well. And unfortunately, because I had not been properly therapized before having my own children, some of these things spilled over into situations that crept into my raising of my children as well. So because they're not all my stories to tell, I'll just leave it at that. But so I get to practice in this moment. So instead of shutting down, I get to become hyper aware in this moment. I mean, feel that. The whole room, the energy in the room shifts because all of you just became very aware with me. Mm-hmm. I feel the breath come and go from my body as I'm breathing. And even though there's just a little quiver in my voice, I have not run from the stage to the bathroom. And that's a big plus. And that's a good thing. That's, it's a lot of practice. It's a lot of practice. And so what I know is that there are people in this room who either know people who deal with mental health issues or challenges for whatever reason, whether they're physically caused or traumatized caused or from serving your country or all different kinds of things. And what I'm seeing in the bigger picture out in the world is that this is starting to really come up and surface. And in part, it's a big challenge because we've spent a whole lot of money on things to numb us. That's so right. That we don't pay attention. We spend a whole lot of time in denial rather than, now let me just tell you people, there's a difference between denying that something has power over you and being in denial. Okay? Being in denial. And a lot of times we come into new thought, and when we're fresh and brand new, and sometimes longer, we think, I can pretend it's not there. I'm going to pretend the monster in the closet just isn't there, when what we have to do is we have to turn around and go to that closet door and open it. And then we can see that the monster's not there. But if we're just pretending that the monster isn't there, it's going to continually come up behind us and kick us in the ass, bite us. Wait, I can say that now, right? Because this is, I can say
and so it is.
Thank you. Your turn.
So I love this. I love that we're getting real here, because here's the thing. Your history and the experiences that have brought you to this moment can be shifted. It is not your final blueprint. So the fact that you stayed here, made a decision, a choice to not only stay, but to get real, and so that you can open that space, is what creates change. It's what creates shift. I just want you to know you are not hiding from anybody. You know all those people that you can see with all those quirky kind of characteristics? You're some of them. We see you, right?
That's the great thing about community, too, right?
That's right. You can't hide. So Michael Gott, you all know Michael Gott, right? He's a minister and a singer, right? And so he's now the senior minister at Houston Unity, but he was also a singer, and he was different places. And I stayed at his house when he was in Dallas, and he had this dog, and it had an interesting name, which I don't remember in this moment, but it was like a human name, right? And the dog was this big, but the dog thought it was this big. And so when people would come, the dog would go completely crazy. And so Michael said, his name was Larry. I mean, really?
That is a human name.
Yeah, that's right. I was like, hello, Larry. Okay. So Larry would bark, and so Michael was saying, what he's saying to the people is, this is my house, don't come in here. But if the door opened, Larry ran, stuck his head under the coffee table with his butt hanging out. This is what I want y'all to know. Your butt's hanging out. We see you, right?
And we love you.
Yes. So here's the thing. If it's hanging out anyway, why not look at it and shift it?
Or at least wag the tail.
Exactly. I'm just saying that you have an opportunity because it's all about you. The change is all about you. And when you are shifting, there's discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
I train coaches to do my emotional integration work, and we had a retreat a week ago. And we were meeting, and we were talking about what's the thing that's the hardest for you around shifting. And one of my coaches said, I do not like to be uncomfortable. The moment I get uncomfortable, I start inching back, and then I run back to the old behaviors. And I said, well, that's interesting, but what if you paused, looked at it, and said, what's the message? What are you trying to teach me, discomfort, so that I can expand into the wholeness that I came here to be?
Yeah. That, and for me, going back to, am I hating the problem more than I'm willing to love the solution is a big part of that. Mm-hmm. Because that solution is frequently going to make me somewhat uncomfortable. Whatever the deal is. I mean, maybe the solution has to do with shifting my behavior patterns. Well, it always has something to do with that. You know, maybe I would prefer griping than getting up and going to exercise. You know, maybe my solution has to do with numbing myself less or not numbing myself at all, or whatever the thing is. I have to be uncomfortable for a few minutes. Here's the thing about discomfort, I got to tell you though, when you breathe into it, when you take a deep breath, and you actually turn and look at the discomfort, it lessens significantly. It's the difference between suffering and pain. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is your choice. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, it has to do with your perception. And other great lines from the song Chris sang about the rain is coming from the clouds. It's just rain, people. Mm-hmm. It's just mm-hmm, rain. Mm-hmm. It's our perception that decides whether it's unbearable or not. We can bear a lot more than we think we can. We really can. And really just turning and looking at it and breathing through it will begin to align you, because the point of nothing is static, everything is moving. That's a metaphysical, some people use it in magic, okay? It's a metaphysical principle, because when you can when you can let go of the hatred of the problem and become aligned with the love of solution, your vibration changes. Mm-hmm. And when your vibration changes, it becomes more aligned with the vibration of the solution, whatever that might be. And that it creates an environment conducive for the solution to come into your life. But if you're vibrating at the level of hating the problem, you are not holding a vibration that will allow solution to come into your life.
Absolutely. So one of the things I was telling the class yesterday is about the pause perspective. Because if you want to create a new habit, you have to pause long enough to see what's running in the old habit, right? And so I said, before you act, before you behave interestingly, before that old thing rolls out your lips, pause and ask, what am I afraid of in this moment? And ask, will this behavior, this thing I want to do, what will it create? What will my reward be? Will I be right, even though I'm pushing people away? What is that reward? And will it create peace within me or others? And then choose how you want to behave, how you want to move. It's not easy, because when you're triggered, it's like a knee-jerk thing. But if you can pause long enough to just really kind of inquire, ask those questions, all of a sudden you get another perspective. You get to look at it from a different point of view and decide, what energy do you want to bring in this situation? Many of us do not like what we are seeing on the planet. And I have asked myself, how often am I bombing others with my thoughts? How often is my judgment preceding me in the space? And how often am I wanting it to be about me because I know I'm right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was noticing what was happening with me when you said the things about the questions, asking the questions. And because I'm in this moment practicing mindful awareness, I could feel tension come up in me when she said, asking one of the particular questions you said, but around asking for that clarity. Sometimes I don't want to know.
Right?
I don't want to know. You know, in the example you gave a few minutes ago of the woman who, I mean, she had to be willing to see that clarity, to walk in at that time. I mean, it could have gone on longer without her walking in for that clarity. We got to be willing to see and be honest. That's a big thing, be honest, and tell the truth to ourselves. What do I need to give up? Where am I numbing myself because it's just too painful to deal with for whatever reason, and be willing to face that. Now, I want to be mindful of our time because we want to give a few minutes for just a few questions. If anybody has any, and how are we doing this? Am I supposed to run a mic around, or do we need to hear them? I mean, I can hear them in the room.
Well, we did have an extra mic. It went somewhere.
Ty took them. Oh, it's on the
Okay, thank you, David.
Okay, David's got a mic. Yay.
Thank you, David.
Ask and ye shall receive, okay?
So who has a question?
Who has a question about this, or, you know, what's coming up for you?
Who's over there? Which side?
I know, sure.
We don't know. Oh, right there. Okay. What's your name, by the way? Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi. So, how do you get off the merry-go-round?
Well, I think we've been talking about it. I think one of the last things that was said by Annette is that you got to get honest. You got to get real. You know, I think the last time I was here, I talked about the fact that I'm almost 30 pounds lighter than I was before because I had to look at me eating my stress. I had to look at not wanting to deal with the pain because I have a similar background to you. I didn't want to look at it. And as long as I didn't look at it, me and the chips were one.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. And you also are in a spiritual community that has practitioners and ministers that are available to support you through that process.
Yeah, because you got to also be willing to ask for help. And one of the things you guys all know, I had to let go of the Women in Truth, because one of the things that I realized I was doing is I was busying myself in such a way to keep me so busy as to not look at some of the deeper issues that I was called. Because of my personal commitment to my evolution, I was called to look at. And so I will tend to overcommit or overserve, and I've actually even already offered to do that. Oh, I'm too busy to go to therapy again. See, I'm ready to, I'm looking at starting a new phase of therapy. I mean, I did 15 years of therapy, and now I'm ready to, oh my goodness, I'm from a new perspective. I want to go back into therapy and work on some other stuff even deeper, because here's what I know. I know that when I heal, the whole channel of people who deal with whatever same issues I'm dealing with are all touched and healed in the process. Mm-hmm. So it's my responsibility to heal my issues, and thereby opening a doorway and making it easier for other people to heal in those same ways. So when I do that, So I have to be honest about where I'm distracting myself.
Right.
And I love what you said about shiny objects. You know, anybody seen the movie Up? Squirrel. Squirrel.
Right.
Squirrel. And you know, I've been in spiritual work for we both have, we all have, but for many, many years. So it's easy for me to think that I've done that. I've been there and I've taken care of those issues. But guess what? The spiral goes around,
Exactly.
and it goes around and it goes around. And so I get to look at that same theme from a different place on the spiral now. So getting off the merry-go-round is really about being mindful and observant, being honest with yourself, and then being willing to love the solution more than you hate the problem. Mm-hmm. And that will draw you to the solution.
And I want you to remember that there's power in community. The way that the Me Too movement has gone forward is because women discovered that there's power in the collective. I tell the truth, somebody else tells the truth, somebody else tells the truth, somebody else tells the truth. And that creates an energy, and it creates an energy of shift. And it takes courage to stretch like that. So part of getting off the merry-go-round is being willing to be brave enough to stretch and to ask for the support you need. And I love that you asked that question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Who else?
Who else?
Stacy, you want to stand up?
I like to think out loud,
And
so in this community, you know, we hear things like, you know, Ernest Holmes saying, we've learned all we need to learn from pain and suffering. Mm-hmm. But certainly my getting off the merry-go-round is often triggered by a very uncomfortable situation. Absolutely. Before I'm going to wake up and recognize that I'm on the merry-go-round. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that other than hitting that pain point, that cosmic 2x4 or whatever we want to call it, that you know, the wake-up calls that hurt, mm-hmm. right? Are there other ways to wake up, to be mm-hmm. conscious when we're unconscious and aren't aware that we're unconscious, that we're on the merry-go-round?
Yeah, there are other ways. And part of it is what Annette was just talking about, is mindfulness. But here's the deal about the human beings. As soon as we feel better, we want to quit doing it. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm healed, I'm whole, life is good. Give me that thing. Right? And so you are an evolutionary being. You are part of the universe that is evolutionary, and so you have to go deeper into that mindful state consistently and not give yourself permission to stop. Dalai Lama says, I meditate for an hour and a half or 2 hours a day or whatever, and when I'm in crisis, I do it more. Michael Beckwith says the same thing. I have this spiritual practice and I do all this, and when I'm in my stuff, I go deeper into it so that I don't slide back into that old space. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's just nothing, that's it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just like, meh. That's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can change it up a little bit, but if you, just to keep yourself interested, like, you know how you go to the grocery store and all of a sudden they've moved everything around? Mm-hmm. They've moved everything around. It can irritate me, or I could be, it could be a new day. But if I'm shifting, like, I'll do this meditation this day, and tomorrow I'll do something different, and this day you need to do something long enough to get deep enough. We tend to practice the spiritual buffet, and it's all about this deep, okay? Mm-hmm. You need to pick something and do it long enough to go deep enough. And then you can change it up a little bit, different music, whatever. Don't change it up too much, because you got to do it. You just got to do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's your name? Because you're going to be our last person before we do this exercise.
Good morning. I'm Day.
Hi, Day.
Hi. So my question is that me giving off the...
No, you're doing good.
Okay. feel like I am currently on the roller coaster, and for me, I constantly have started seeking the lessons in all of them, and well, in everything that I'm going through. I send out inspirational doses every morning, so my thing has been lately that there's a blessing even in the storm.
That's right.
The storm is oftentimes the blessing.
Right.
But for me, I guess my question is, because I'm always so introspective, like, is there a point of, like, stop seeking the lesson and just feel and flow and move through it? Because I think for me, I'm constantly like, oh God, what am I supposed to learn here? What am I supposed to learn here? So it's like, does that make sense?
It totally makes
Okay.
sense. Let me just say something, Day. How many people in here run movies in their heads while they're trying to figure stuff out? Would you raise your hand? So I just want you to see you're not by yourself. But this is what I also want to tell you. If you only try to do it inside your mind, you will only stay at the level of the issue that's running.
So I'm constantly journaling.
I know that, but you're still by yourself.
Okay, so community.
So she just said, I'm going back to therapy to dive deeper, right?
And I'm going to find a group, and
Right.
not a group here, but a group that deals with the issues I'm dealing with.
Yes.
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
You get then you got to just practice it. You got to do it rather than
Right.
think about doing it.
Right.
Whether it's an active out here or thinking about being mindful versus being mindful.
Right. And sometimes you need another perspective. You need a mirror sitting in front of you going, have you thought about that? Are you aware that you keep doing that? I mean, whatever that is, you know. I mean, just know that you probably have reached the upper limit of your consciousness where you are, and maybe there's something that needs to support you to move to the next place. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally.
Perfect. So what we want to do now is we want to take you into an experience. Yeah? So what's going to happen is first I'm going to sing to you, and then Annette is going to take you into a meditative process. Because it's really wonderful to hear information, but it's really powerful to have your own experience, yeah? So I'm going to ask you to cross your legs, put your stuff out of your lap.
Just breathe. Gently move into your heart. Surrender. Let it go. Surrender. Let it all go. All the fears and the doubts, all the pain. All the wounds, the feelings of being alone. Surrender, let it go. Surrender, let it go. Surrender, let it all go. All the shame and the guilt, all the tears. All the blame, the feelings of being outside. Surrender, let it go.
So breathe into that place of surrender. Feel that breath enter your body. God is here for you in this moment, showing up as the sturdiness of the chair beneath you, the wall behind you, the floor beneath you. Lean into that support for a moment. You and your issue are safe. This is safe space in this room. And in truth, your life is safe space. Your prayer closet is safe space. The breath that enters your body, feel it for a moment. You might experience that breath entering and exiting your body as thought. I feel the breath come in. I feel the breath go out. Feel the chair beneath you. You may feel that chair as thought. The chair feels hard, or the chair feels warm. I invite you to notice what is just back of that thought, the actual feeling itself. You may only grasp it in flickers, but the awareness of the feeling. Gently let go of your commentary about the experience, or your judgment about your inability to let go of the commentary. And just feel it. Those are flickers of awareness. And they are safe space. It is the stillness behind our opinions, our never-ending list of opinions. For a moment it ends, and we just be. It's safe to just be. And in that oh so fertile ground, ask your question. What am I ready to shift? What is my evolutionary edge? In that fertile ground of stillness, plant your seed of wonder. What solution am I called to love more than the problem that I hate? And in this space, ask for the help. We don't have to do it by ourselves. And in fact, we cannot. We cannot do it by ourselves. There is a greater power, a power with a capital P. We are made to channel that power. And when we are ready to let go of trying to do it all by our little selves, That power is patiently waiting to come through you, to be through you. And so in this space, we open ourselves, we surrender to that greater power, knowing that courage is who we are. Beauty is who we are. Love, strength, these are who we are. For they are components of that greater power. All we have to do is become available. Really become available. Gently shifting from thinking about being available to actually being available. Feel that chair beneath you, knowing that you are supported.
We take this moment to give thanks. Give thanks for our willingness to shift, to create a new design for living. We take this moment to honor that we walk through these doors this day as an act of faith and a statement of courage. An absolute knowingness that the infinite presence of the living God is revealing itself moment by moment, thought by thought, expression by expression, appearance by appearance. So what I know is that we are a collective consciousness. This is a family of heart. We are gathered here in this space because there is something in us that called us forward, a vision that is calling us forward. And so we honor the old ways of being and the old paradigms and the old ways that need to be shifted. And we choose to place them on the altar of light where they are transformed and transcending into new spaces of awakening and awareness. And so the answer is yes. Yes to life. Yes to love. Yes to peace. Yes to grace. Yes to harmony. The answer is yes. And so I am grateful in this moment for this community. I'm grateful for its courage to step forth and create anew. I am grateful for the people who may not have made it here today because of certain circumstances. We lift them up. We lift up the people that don't even know about this community yet, and yet there's a calling. We give thanks that right here and right now, that whatever is happening in our lives, it is for the goodness and the grace of our lives expanding, because grace is our sufficiency. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the abundance. I'm grateful for the clarity of the individual and the collective here. And I know that we are living affirmatively because we choose it. And so we get off the merry-go-round and we give thanks that there is something new, a new habit that is moving into form from the invisible to the visible right here and right now. For that, I'm eternally grateful. And so I release this word. I trust it. I give thanks and allow it to be and say, and so it is.
And so it is. Girl.
Hi, I'm David Alt, and I simply want to say thanks. Thanks for taking the time to watch our broadcast here at Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. We have a vision, and that vision is to reawaken all to their spiritual magnificence. And one of the ways that we are able to do that is through this very medium of broadcasting. So if you got anything out of this, if you felt in any way inspired, or if something spoke to you directly, then I extend an invitation to you to become a part of our family by donating. And there are many ways in order for you to be able to do that. One is to simply go to our website at slca.com, and there you will find all different kinds of prompts that will help you support what it is that we are doing here in Atlanta. One way is to become a pledger. That means that you decide on a monthly basis that you are going to help us with this vision. Another way is to donate through our management system called Fellowship One, another through PayPal, and another even easier way is on your cell phone. You can do what's called text to tithe, and that number is 404-796-7030. Again, thank you so much for your support, and I invite you to come back weekly to see what it is that we're up to. Blessings.